Hello friends, I am Dr. Subhash Ende, working as Assistant Professor at Guru Nanak College of Pharmacy, Nagpur. Today, in this video, I am going to discuss about overview of preclinical experimentation. Many research scholars includes animal studies in their research project, and this video is useful for those researchers. These are the content of my video. In this video, I'll discuss basic terminology, animal use in preclinical pharmacology, legal regulations, handling and other techniques, in vivo and in vitro experimentation. Before starting with any preclinical research project, you should know some basic terminologies like pharmacology. Pharmacology is a branch of science which deals with the study of drug, especially pharmacokinetic and pharmacodynamic study of drug. Toxicology is again branch of science where toxic dose or toxicity of any substance or any drug is determined. Clinical pharmacology is the term where there is a study of drug in human volunteer, either healthy volunteers or patient. The term preclinical pharmacology, which is nothing but the study of drug in animals. Before going for clinical study, we used to carry out the study of any substance or any drug in animals, and that is called preclinical pharmacology. In vivo and in vitro experimentation. In preclinical pharmacology, the term in vivo means inside the body, in which we administer drug to the animal and check out the effect of that drug in intact animal or live animal. Whereas in vitro is the term which is called outside the body, and in which we isolate or extract out any organ or tissue of animal outside the body and mount it in a specific instrument where we keep the environment which is equal to the internal environment of animal by use of physiological salt solution. Now, where exactly preclinical studies lie in between in the journey of drug discovery and development. So, as we know that a molecule or a drug require almost 15 to 16 years of exhaustive research to come in the market. During this period, that molecule goes through various stages like synthesis of new chemical entity or extraction of herb, isolation of any herbal constituent. Then that herbal constituent or herbal extract and new chemical entity enter into next stage, that is called preclinical studies. In preclinical studies, physicochemical parameter, pharmacokinetic parameter like ADME, toxicity testings and screening or evaluation of the desired activity is carried out. Then this data is submitted to FDA in the form of application called IND, Investigational New Drug Application. If FDA approve this data, then the next stage is called clinical trials, where the molecule or the drug is evaluated in human volunteers. Clinical trials are carried out by use of phase 1 clinical trial, phase 2, phase 3 clinical trials. Again, the data of preclinical as well as clinical studies submitted to FDA in the form of application, that is called NDA, New Drug Application. If FDA approve, then the drug or molecule enter in post-marketing phase. So post-marketing phase is also called as phase 4 trial, where adverse drug reactions are reported in huge number, thousands of patients, and then that drug come into the market as a remedy or actual medicine. Now come to the actual part of our presentation, that is preclinical pharmacology. Now, before starting with any experiment, you should select specific laboratory animal. These are the list of animals, laboratory animals, which are used in preclinical pharmacology. Now this graph shows that rodents, then amphibians or other animals, birds or other animals are used as a laboratory animal. Out of this, approximately 75% of animal use are rodent, that is rat and mice. So rat are the mostly used experimental animal for the experiment of CNS, CVS, endocrine or other experiment. Rats are also called as Rattus norvegicus, and strain which is used in experimental purpose is Albino vistae and Spock dolly. Then mouse or mice, mus musculus. So Swiss albino strain of mice are used for experimental purpose, and mice are also used in every experiments of CNS, CVS or other experiment. The difference in between rat and mice is of weight or size. Rats are approximately 10 times larger than mice. Other animals like rabbit, which is used in pharmacokinetic studies, or which is used for diabetic study. Then guinea pig is again a small pig which is used in experiments like antihistaminic determination of antihistaminic activity, anti bronchial asthma, in disease of bronchial asthma. Then zebrafish. Now zebrafish are nowadays mostly used because of cost effectiveness. Zebrafish experiments which are carried out using zebrafish are little bit cost effective than that of the other animals. Then frogs are right now banned by government. Frogs were used in the experiment of heart and muscle constriction. Higher animal like monkey and dogs are used if there is a need of that animal in your protocol. So monkeys are used in experiments related to brain, and dogs are used in experiment related to heart. Now there are other animals like transgenic animals. Transgenic animals are the genetically modified animal for specific disease. For example, hypertensive rat or mice, diabetic rat or mice. So in this type of animals, inborn disease like hypertension, like diabetes, are induced by the use of genetic engineering. Now these are the legal regulation. If you want to carry out any experiment, then you have to approve your protocol from specific committees. So there are, in Indian legislation, there are two committees, CPCSEA and IAEC. CPCSEA, which is called Committee for the Purpose of Control and Supervision of Experiments on Animal. This committee is constituted under Section 15 of Prevention of Cruelty to Animal Act 1960, and this committee ensure that animals are not subjected to unnecessary pain or suffering before, during and after performance of experiment on them. The name itself says that this committee control and supervise what experiments on animal, and this committee also provides some guidelines for breeding and experiments on animal. Then another committee is called IAEC, Institutional Animal Ethics Committee. Now this committee is constituted as per the rule of 13 of breeding of an experiment on animal 1998. This is an institutional committee wherever the experiments are carried out on the animal. Say for example, in veterinary college, in pharmacy college, in medical college, in zoology department. So in that institute or in that organization, that there is one committee that is called IAEC. This committee is operated in accordance with the procedure specified by CPCSEA. There is a one member which is nominated by CPCSEA in this committee, and the function of this committee is scrutinize and give approval to project proposal for experimentation on animal. So if you want to carry out any experiment, any research research project on the animal, you have to submit a protocol, experimental protocol, to IAEC in a specific form which is given by CPCSE. That form is called Form B. So you have to submit your protocol or Form B to IAEC. Then IAEC scrutinize and either give approval or may reject your protocol depending on the presence of number of animals and procedure you follow. Okay, so if the IAEC approve your protocol, then and then you have to do that experiment, otherwise you have to skip your experiment. Now next is some techniques of handling and route of administration. Now during working with animal, you have to take some care. During the handling of animals, you have to pick up that animal by catching the base of tail of that animal, and you have to take utmost care of that animal. It should not infected by environmental parasite, or you should keep that animal in specific temperature and humidity, which is prescribed by CPCSEA. Now this image shows the restraining of rat, how rat can be restrained, hold. There are some route of administration. So this image shows the oral route of administration, where we use oral feeding gavage for administration of drug. This is an intraperitoneal injection, where in the peritoneal region we used to administer inject drug. This is subcutaneous injection. This is intravenous injection, where we administer drug directly into the tail vein. This is supplantar injection. Now the injection of drug or any chemical into the palm region of animal. This route of administration usually used in evaluation of induction of inflammation in the legs. And this is a intramuscular injection. These are some techniques which are used for blood collection and sacrification of animal. Now for blood collection, cardiac puncture, retroorbital tail vein or marginal ear vein techniques are used. Now what is cardiac puncture? So in cardiac puncture, again this is a terminal technique. That means in this technique, animal after withdrawal of blood, animal can die. Okay, so in cardiac puncture you have to locate the heart of animal externally and inject the needle directly into the heart and suck out the blood, whatever blood present in heart, that you have to suck out. Then second technique which is commonly used is called retroorbital technique. Now in retroorbital technique, this image you can see, here we insert a glass capillary into the retroorbital plexus, which is present just behind the behind the eyes of rat. Then tail vein technique, where we inject a needle into the tail vein of rat and suck out the blood. And marginal ear vein, this technique is used in rabbit, where in rabbit ear pinna we can identify ear veins properly, called marginal ear veins. So we have to inject needle into the marginal ear vein and suck out the blood. So this retroorbital tail vein and marginal ear vein, this technique are called non-terminal technique. That means in this technique there is no death of animal, while in cardiac puncture the animal can die. Now the technique, other technique, sacrification technique, which is also called as euthanasia. Euthanasia is nothing but the painless killing, as CPCSEA gave the guidelines where there should be minimum pain to that animal. So during the sacrification of animal, there should be minimum pain. So there are three type of techniques we generally use. First is head blown technique. In head blown technique, we use a captive bolt or hammer or rod, and we just hammer that rod on the head of animal, rat. So here you have to take precaution that in one stroke that rat should be die. The next technique is cervical dislocation. Again, this is a technique mostly used. In cervical dislocation, you have to press the neck region of rat or mice and pull the tail in opposite direction, so that the whole spinal cord get ruptured. So by using this technique, animal can die within say 4 or 5 seconds, and whatever the parameter that get fixed, brain parameter or other blood parameter that get fixed. So this technique is mostly used technique. Then next is anesthesia, in which we administer local inhalational or injectable anesthetics to animal at higher dose, and because of higher dose of anesthetics, animal can sacrifice or die. So out of these three techniques, best technique is cervical dislocation, because animal die within a few seconds and all the parameter get fixed. While in case of anesthesia, there are chances of interaction of that anesthetic, and that may alter the blood level or blood parameter or neurotransmitter level. Also, inhalational anesthetic cause the irritation to respiratory tract, and that may increase the salivation. Next part is the experimentation. Now in any preclinical experiment, generally toxicity testings are carried, then in vivo in vitro experimentation and histopathological studies can carried out. So we will see one by one. toxicity testing. One of the scientists well said that all substances are poisonous. The right dose differentiate a poison and remedy. You should always know what quantity of substance to be consumed, otherwise it may cause toxicity. So for determination of toxicity test, toxicity of any drug, we use acute toxicity test, subchronic toxicity and chronic toxicity test. So acute toxicity test, again a test where the adverse effect occurring within a short time of administration of single dose or multiple dose given within 24 hours. So the term acute means within 24 hours we can check the toxicity parameters like behavioral changes and mortality. So this technique is used for determination of LD50 of any compound, and this technique carried out accordance with the guideline which are given by OECD, AOT 423. Then subacute toxicity test, which involve daily or frequent exposure to the compound over the period up to about 90 days. And in chronic toxicity testing, usually we expose the animal for the chemical or substance for greater part of the lifespan, that is up to 12 months or up to 2 years. So in subacute as well as chronic toxicity testing, we have to administer drug daily or frequent dosing is there for at least for 90 days or for 2 years. And following observation we can check in specific interval that are biochemical organ function tests like blood glucose, protein, bilirubin, physiological measurements, food consumption, body weight, then metabolic studies or hematological information and histopathological studies. So whether your drug, when you administer for long time, either for 90 days or for 2 years, so what is the effect of your drug for long-term administration can be checked by this subacute and chronic toxicity testing. Now the main part of our presentation, that is in vivo experimentation. So generally in vivo and in vivo experimentation can be carried out. So first is in vivo experimentation. The term in vivo, as I said earlier, that in vivo means inside the body, when we administer drug to the animal and we just check out the effect of drug in intact animal or live animal. So there I have used some example of the studies. Say for example locomotor activity. We used to carry out locomotor activity in which we administer drug and measure the locomotor score. Locomotor score means movement of that animal. After administration of drug, if the locomotor score of animal increases because of drug, that indicate the CNS stimulant activity, or if the drug decreases the locomotor score, that we can conclude as sedative activity or CNS depressant activity. Similarly, one more example we can discuss, that is screening of anti-epileptic drug. So in this experiment we divide animal into 3 group: control, test and standard group. In control group we administer vehicle, while in test group we administer drug or test drug, and in third standard group we used to administer standard drug. In this case we can use phenytoin or phenobarbital as a standard drug. Then we induce epilepsy or seizure with the help of this drug by administering PTZ, pentylene tetrazole or strychnine, or by giving the specific shock with the help of some instrument. And just observe whether your drug, test drug, reverse the convulsion which are induced by other shock, pentylene tetrazole or strychnine, and compare it with standard drug as well as control drug. One more example I will discuss, that is screening of anti-Alzheimer drug. Here we administer or use scopolamine for induction of Alzheimer or amnesia. Amnesia or Alzheimer, in amnesia or Alzheimer there is loss of memory. So scopolamine, again one of the anticholinergic drug which induces amnesia. So here also we divide animal into 3 group: control group, test group and standard group. In control group we administer vehicle. In test group we administer test drug. In standard group we administer standard drug. In this case we use piracetam as a standard drug. And in all three group we inject scopolamine just to induce amnesia and measure the parameter which are says that this scopolamine induces the amnesia. If your drug reduce the scopolamine induced amnesia, then you can say that your drug is having anti-Alzheimer activity. Now next is in vitro experimentation. In this we isolate tissue or organ and mount it outside the body, means mount it in on the specific instrument and check out the effect of that drug on that isolated part. For example, estimation of ACHE activity in rat brain. Now in vivo experimentation we have discussed scopolamine induced amnesia. Now in continuation of that study we can estimate presence of acetylcholine level in brain, because acetylcholine is one of the key parameter or key neurotransmitter which can be checked into the Alzheimer or amnesia. So in this case we have to sacrifice the rat, isolate rat brain, homogenate, crush it, homogenate it, and check out the presence of ACHE level in homogenate, brain homogenate. That can be indicate the one of the parameter for Alzheimer. Similarly, another example is estimation of SGOT, SGPT, bilirubin, NF-kappa B, TNF alpha in either liver or in blood or other organ. Then determination of cell viability. By this method we can carry out anti-cancer activity where we check the cell viability by MTT assay. Then cell line study is also in vitro experimentation where we use specific cell line and grow that cell line in specific medium or culture that cell line, and then administer our drug and check out the cell viability. So various type of cell lines like liver cell lines are there, pancreatic carcinoma cell line, colonal carcinoma, brain neuroblastoma cell lines are available. Histopathologic study is the examination of biological tissue in order to observe the disease cell in microscope. So in histopathological study we generally take out the tissues sample and observe it under microscope. For example, in case of hepatoprotective study we isolate liver where we have induced the hepatotoxicity by means of any chemicals like paracetamol, CCl4. Then we take out the liver and take the section of that liver using specific instrument like microtome and observe that section under microscope just to identify or just to find out the diseased cell. Now finally we will summarize the whole video. Rat and mice are mostly used as experimental animal. Experimental protocol should be approved from IAC and CPCSE. Acute toxicity test determine the toxicity profile and lethal dose of drug. In vivo, in vitro and histopathological studies are used for preclinical screening of drug. These are the reference book, and thank you for listening this video. If you have any difficulty you can contact me on my mobile or on my email ID. Thank you very much.